welcome back to Rue's Life. So here I am in the Polytunnel, and I thought I'd just come and have a little chat with you about what's been going on. So excuse the way I look, I'm actually still in my pyjamas, which is one of the advantages of having my Polytunnel right next to my house. I can just pop out on water and do bits and pieces, even when I'm not feeling too brilliant, or if I'm just in a hurry. So I'm not feeling too great at the moment, but I'm not going to hark on about that. I will touch on my health a little bit later, because I know that there are some of you out there who follow who have health issues yourselves. And I think it's really important for us to share the impact that this has on our lives, because then we don't feel quite so alone when we're going through tough times. So things in the Polytunnel and on the plot, as I'm sure many of you that grow will be finding at the moment, are just a little bit odd, to say the least. Throughout the whole of April we had so many frosts, and the temperatures have been quite low, and even though we had a little bit of sunshine during the daytime, we haven't really been having the normal sort of temperatures that we would get at that time of the year. So my seedlings are all doing okay, but they are just not progressing as they normally would. So things that I've potted on that normally by now would be establishing into quite decent plants, which would be ready for moving on, that's just not been happening. And some of the seeds that I sowed just didn't germinate, which is no biggie, I just will re-sow. So I've already done some second sowings of some of my seeds, and I will re-sow some of the others as well. They will all catch up eventually. My Belotto Beans, I did actually put the plants out. I kind of took a risk, and I think there's one or two actual plants that have survived. The rest, the cold and the frost have just got to them. But what I did is, as I put each plant in at the bottom of each cane and support, I did in that hole put 2 or 3 more beans direct sow. So hopefully they will germinate and I will get some bean plants, but I am actually going to sow some more here in the Polytunnel in pots as well, just as backup. I love my Belotto beans, and I'd be really disappointed if I didn't get to grow any this year. I will talk more about the plants and things in my tour, which I should be filming over the next few days. I ordered some Brassica netting. Those of you that follow me will know that I've actually avoided growing brassicas since I've lived here on the farm, which is for 4.5 years now. And in actual fact, it's probably, oh goodness, 20 years since I grew brassicas, and I had such a terrible experience having never grown them before. The first year that I grew them, and I tried a couple of seasons, but I didn't have any netting, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I just had a really bad experience with the cabbage white and caterpillars. So having avoided growing them for years, I decided I would have a bash this year. I've got some really healthy plants. I ordered some netting online, some scaffold netting, and unfortunately I was given the delivery date, and then the delivery date was moved, and then I seemed to be stuck in limbo. Then I was given another date, and then it was, if it hasn't arrived by the end of today, come back tomorrow and you can apply for a refund. Then I went back the following day, and it was again, wait till tomorrow to apply for a refund. Anyway, cut a long story short, it never arrived, and it was weeks and weeks and weeks of waiting. So I've managed to apply for the refund, which actually took 10 days to come into my account, but I have now ordered some more. So fingers crossed, so I can get that netting up and hopefully have a successful season this year with my brassicas. And I don't know if it's just us. I have seen a couple of other people mention that they've been having problems, but honest to goodness, delivery at the moment, there are still some delivery drivers which are brilliant, and their standards haven't dropped, but we really have been having some unbelievable experiences with deliveries. We've got a drive on the farm and a post box on the gate, which saves people having to come up to the house. We don't actually have any letterboxes on any of our doors. And for parcels, we actually have a big plastic box. We've got a clear sign on the post box which states, you know, anything that won't fit in the post box, please pop into the box to the left of the gate. All they have to do is open a gate and the tub is there. We have had things that they've tried to, the post box has got a letterbox on one side, but it actually opens from the back. And we've had people trying to cram things in the back. We've had things balanced on the top of it. We've had things just left on the drive. But more annoying than that is regularly we have things, they come through the gate and then instead of putting it into the black tub, they put it on top of the tub. We actually have toilet paper delivered, and it comes in a cardboard box and each toilet roll is wrapped in paper, and it was lashing it down with rain all day, and they left the box on top of the plastic tub. So of course, cardboard, paper, toilet roll, you can imagine. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'd just be interested, drop a comment below if you've been having the same issues with deliveries. I don't know what's going on. So the animals are all doing fine. The horses, the two big boys, I've moved them now onto some fresh grazing. The other thing that the weather has affected is our grazing. So where we would normally have the grass coming through now and we would not have a shortage of grazing for the horses and the sheep, where we've moved them around, the fields that we've moved them from just are not recovering. So the sheep are doing okay at the moment. They're still in the menage field by the stables, and they are munching it down, but there is a bit left on there for them at the moment. However, where the horses are now, once they've eaten that, if things don't change, we'll have to start buying in haylage, which we don't normally do at this time of the year. But there won't be any grass for them to eat, so we'll have to supplement it. But it is remarkable once the weather changes how quickly that flushes up. So fingers crossed it will only be a short period that we have to do that, if at all. Little Sunny pony at the moment, despite the fact that the grass isn't growing as we'd like it, spring grass is coming through, and we do have to be careful with him at this time of the year, as I have mentioned before, that we don't trigger laminitis. So our plan is we are going to build a permanent, what we call a starvation paddock. It sounds mean, but essentially it's a small area that once it's grazed down, there's not a huge amount in there, and he can spend time, which means he can be out and he can see the other horses, they can touch noses over the fences, but he's got his own little paddock that doesn't have a huge amount of grass in it, which is better than him being in a stable, which is what we've got to do with him at the moment. So he's living predominantly in at the moment. We had used electric tape in the past since we've been here to make a starvation area for him. However, he's a cheeky little monkey, and he's quickly learnt that without permanent fencing, with just the electric tape, he can find a way through that. So rather than battling with constantly having to rebuild this paddock with the temporary electric fencing, and also the risk every time he runs through that, he's at risk of tangling himself up in it and injuring himself. So we need to put a more permanent paddock in. But of course, fencing materials cost, and funds are really tight at the moment. So we've just got to hang on a little while before we can do that. All the other animals are doing fine. The chickens are doing great, and I do intend to make a video on those very soon. I've got 3 at the moment that I think they're just bullying each other, so I may have to split them for a while. They're just quite sore on their backs. Now, one of the things that could be is at this time of the year when it gets a bit warmer, we have to be careful with mites. However, I've treated them for mites, I've treated the birds, and I've treated the environment, and I'm checking them regularly, and I can't see any evidence of mites. So the only other thing it could be is bullying. So as I say, I've got 3 that have got a little bit of a bald patch where the feathers have gone, and it's just a little bit sore. So we're keeping an eye on that and treating it and keeping it clean, making sure they don't get an infection. But if they continue like this, I might have to just separate them for a while. The others are all absolutely fine, and that's another indicator that in fact it's not mites, because generally the whole flock would be affected. So I think there's just a bit of squabbling going on there. I have been off work for some time, as some of you will know, and I've started doing more walking just in the area. I've just been packing a little rucksack. I've got some really nice earphones that are wireless, so I tend to listen to a podcast or something like that. And I've just been setting out from the farm. There's a little bit that I have to go sort of on the mainer road, but then very quickly I'm just out onto the country lanes, and it's absolutely beautiful. And there's a few little bridle paths and footpaths as well, so I am actually getting off the lanes as well, and it's absolutely beautiful. I haven't been taking a map with me, I've just been exploring. Worst case scenario, if I go to a point and I'm not sure where I am, of course I can just turn around and come back, but so far I've managed to do circuits, and I've been really enjoying that. And it's just so good to just be out and away and enjoying the elements. I mean, it's been raining some days, but you know, you can just put your hood up. But to just be out looking at nature, it's been absolutely lovely. One foot in front of the other, listening to the birds, looking at the wildflowers. It's just been lovely. So, as I say, I have been off work now for quite some time, and I'm not entirely sure when I will be returning to work. I have seen a neurologist now. I had a consultation on the 20th of April. She was absolutely lovely. I had a much better experience this time. I did see a neurologist for my chronic migraine about 2 years ago, and I'll be honest, I had a terrible experience. He barely made eye contact. He wasn't interested, and yeah, it was a very bad experience. And whilst I was prepared to just accept that, you know, fair enough, that was his bedside manner, if the outcome had been good and I'd actually got some treatment which had given me some respite, then it wouldn't have been so bad. But the fact that I had a really poor experience was made to feel almost like a time waster, um, and then didn't really get a successful treatment either. And here we are 2 years on. You know, I just wish I'd seen the neurologist that I've seen this time. I'm nowhere near the point I'd like to be at, but I've got some hope that she will be able to help me long term. So there is a new medication available in the UK, which has only been available for the last 4 or 5 months, and it works by blocking calcitonin uptake to pain receptors in the brain, which new research has shown could be the cause of migraine. A big problem with migraine is, unfortunately, the actual cause is still not really known, so it's very difficult to treat something sort of scientifically, if you like, and medically, if you don't know what's causing it. So, you know, research is still going on, but there is this new medication. It would be, it's injectable. I would have to inject myself once a month, and if it works, I should see a significant reduction. However, it's new, there are certain criteria that have to be met, and my neurologist has to present it to the board for approval. So only when it's approved, and if it's approved, would I be able to start that new medication. One of the criteria that has to be met is that I can't take any pain relief at all, not even so much as an aspirin or a paracetamol, for 6 to 8 weeks. So at the moment, I can't take any pain relief for anything, which means, of course, I still have no way of knowing when my migraine attacks will occur, and when they do happen, I've got absolutely nothing to stop them. So I just have to ride them out, and that can be anything up to 48 hours, and it can be off the scale pain. So it's, you know, dark room, cover my eyes. I actually find heat really helpful, so on the back of my neck, and white tiger balm on my forehead and the back of my neck and my shoulders. And yeah, I'm kind of fit for nothing while that's happening. So I'm pretty tired. I'm kind of counting down the days, really. I'm just waiting to hear back. I'm not quite sure what will happen if I'm not approved by the board, but I don't even want to think about that at the moment. I'm trying to be positive and hope that it won't be long before I can start this new medication, and that it might actually give me some respite. But I'm really missing being at work, and just the structure that gives me as well. I know I'm really lucky to be here on the farm, and you know, I'm trying to sort of structure my days, which kind of happens naturally here, because, you know, first thing in the morning and late afternoon we very much have a routine here with the animals, so that kind of gives a natural flow to the day, which can also be difficult to manage if I'm having a bad day, but I manage, I find a way, and of course Chris is very supportive and helpful as well. and then there's always something to be doing. So on a good day I can come and potter on the plot and in the polytunnel. If I feel well enough I can ride, go for a walk, take the dogs for a walk, potter about with the chickens. There's always something to be doing. And if I'm not having a good day, well, it's a great place to be when you're not having a good day. With all the rain that we've had, one of the paddocks next to the garden over at the house, we often get, and I've shown it in previous videos, we get sort of a pond that comes, it basically just floods. And we've had some ducks move in, which happens quite regularly, but we've had them here for quite some time now. They are mallards. There's 2 drakes and a hen, and I've really enjoyed just seeing them about quacking. They sleep on the field, they just hunker down together and they go and dabble about in the sort of pond that's formed, and it's just been lovely to see them. I've contemplated many times actually having ducks. Obviously we've got the chickens, but I've never had ducks. But every time we talk ourselves round in a circle and we talk ourselves out of it, because you know it's more mouths to feed, it's more work, and they can be quite messy. I know other people with ducks, so we've always talked ourselves out of it for various reasons. So it's been really nice just having these wild ducks around, and we get, you know, the enjoyment of watching them, but they're not my responsibility, so to speak. Until, that is, this morning. So quite early this morning, I presume this chap was going to work, I was in the snug at the computer, and there was a knock on the window. I leapt out of my skin, and so I popped out, I shut the door to stop the dogs from rushing out and barking, and he got one of the ducks. It's one of the drakes. He said, "Is this your duck? Is this your duck? It's just been hit by a car." And I didn't really want to say to him, "Well, no, actually, it's a wild duck and it's not my duck." He looked really upset, so I just took the duck from him and thanked him very much. He thought it was a girl. He kept calling him she, so I had to explain, well, actually, this is a male duck, but thank you ever so much for taking the time. So I've checked him over. There's no obvious injuries. He could just be stunned or shocked, that there could be some internal injuries going on. He's not standing up at the moment, and the very fact that this chap was able to pick him up, you know, they are wild ducks. So normally, you know, when they're in the field, if I go to try and take a picture or get too close to them, of course, they're off. So I wrapped him in a towel, which there's some towels in the barn which I use for when I bath the horses, drying them off with, various other bits and pieces, chickens sometimes as well. So I quickly wrapped him in a towel to stop him from flapping and panicking, and popped him down on a table, and I've set up the little chicken A-frame that I use as an isolation come sick bay for the chickens, and I've just popped him in there on a straw bed with some water for now, and I'm just going to keep an eye on him and see if he takes a turn for the worse, or I really think he's not going to do, then I will actually pop him to the vets. I'll probably have him put to sleep because I don't want him to suffer, but I'm just going to give him a chance. So that was quite sad, but in a way, I was really, I mean, I did laugh after the chap had driven off, because I thought, well, I kind of have been considering them my ducks, but they're not my ducks. But I just thought it was so sweet that he'd taken the time to stop and pick this wild duck up and bring it to the nearest farm, assuming it was ours. But at least, you know, I'm a veterinary nurse. I have my own chickens. I've looked after ducks before for other people. So he kind of came to the right house. So fingers crossed, we'll see how he does. And I'll film him for you if he does. So I suppose I should explain why I'm sitting here in my pyjamas and why I'm not actually dressed. I had my COVID vaccination, the first one, on Saturday. Chris and I are both the same age, we're both 49. He actually had his quite some time back, and I slipped through the net somehow. They weren't sure why I'd been missed. Anyway, I finally got my letter and I went on Saturday, and they've already booked me in I think 11 weeks time for my second jab. And if any of you haven't had your jabs yet, please don't let this put you off. I did have a reaction. It is. I know a few people have had a bit of a reaction, and it's just a bit kind of flu-y symptoms. But my mum had a bit of a reaction. My sister had a bit of a reaction. Chris had just an overnight reaction, but was back to work and fine, you know, it didn't sort of floor him. I think if you can take some aspirin or some paracetamol, you know, you can just breeze your way through it and just feel a bit off colour. But because I'm not able to take anything at the moment, I did actually spike quite a temperature. So I had, so that was on Saturday. It's Monday morning now. So I had the vaccine at just after 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I was fine, didn't feel it at all. I mean, I'm usually with injections sort of in my arms, I'm quite sensitive. I usually really feel it. It hurts. And I bleed whenever I've had any injections in the tops of my arms or anywhere, in fact. I tend to bleed an awful lot. So didn't feel a thing, no blood. They did keep me there for 30 minutes. I think it's usually 15 minutes because previously, I won't bore you with the details, but I did have an anaphylactic reaction about 4 years ago to something. So because of that, they had to monitor me a little bit longer, but I was fine. Drove home and just carried on with my day on Saturday. Perfectly normal day, apart from the fact that it was belting down with rain all day. 11 o'clock at night, wallop, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So Saturday night and all of Sunday, I just felt awful. High temperature and all that goes with that. But as I say, I'm sure if I'd just been able to take some paracetamol or aspirin and bring that temperature down, I probably would have felt a bit better. But because I lay in bed feeling like poop for the best part of 24 hours, I'm already feeling a bit washed up anyway because of these constant migraines. That on top of it, and then, boo-hoo, I know I'm moaning now, but I have two prolapse discs in my lower back, which I kind of manage, but they do flare up from time to time. And because I hadn't been moving around, of course, my back flared up. So this morning, I could barely move, hence why I'm sitting here in my pyjamas. It just takes me a bit longer to get going when my back's bad. So rather than, you know, feel sorry for myself and go, oh, life is terrible, I thought I'd come and do something positive. I'm just not feeling able to actually physically do much today, so I thought I'd come and have a little chat with you from the Polytunnel. So I am trying very much to hold on to the positives. I don't want this to be a boo-hoo doom gloom video. It's just life. Life has its ups and it has its downs. I have had quite a lot of downs at the moment, and I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling a little. But I do use mindfulness, I journal, the walking. I try very much to live in the moment and hold on to the positives because I am very aware of all the good that I do have. So on to books that I've been reading. So I have finished reading Jojo Moyes' Me Before You. I absolutely loved it. I've seen the film, and usually, I may have mentioned this before, I prefer to read a book in advance of seeing a film because I find I love reading. And of course, when we read a book, we conjure up those characters in our mind and we have a very clear picture of who they are. And I really like that, you know, especially a good author can really describe characters or situations or places, and we visualize those. And I think it depends on our personal life experiences as well as to what we imagine and how we read that book. And of course, if we've watched a film, then we're already influenced. You can't change those characters in your mind. However, I have enjoyed reading this book, and interestingly, the characters I've conjured up are actually quite different from the ones in the film. And in fact, the main female character in the book, I absolutely love her. And she's written very differently, I think, from the way she was portrayed in the film. I think they got her quirkiness and the way that she dressed, but I think her physical appearance in the book is I love the way that they wrote it. And I think that the way she was portrayed in the film was very different. So I finished that, really enjoyed it, and I've now started reading the sequel, and it's called After You, and I think there's a third book as well. So I'm really enjoying reading that. It's easy reading, and as I say, I'm really enjoying it. And what have we been watching? So we have been watching on Netflix a series called Startup, and if you haven't watched it, it really is worth a watch. Martin Freeman, I have never seen him play a part like this. It's quite dark, I'm not usually big on things that have violence in them. However, I don't feel the violence in this is violence for the sake of violence. It is a part of the storyline, and the bits I don't like, I just cover my ears and close my eyes, and then Chris gives me a nudge. He knows me very well. I do avoid things, I can't watch things like the Quentin Tarantino type films. Chris likes that kind of thing. I can't watch it. But if ever we watch something together, if there's anything in it, he knows I'm not going to like it. So I literally put my fingers in my ears, I cover my eyes, and I sing la 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 to myself. And as soon as the nasty bit's over, he'll give me a nudge. Um, so I just don't watch it. But despite the fact there have been some quite violent scenes, it's got an excellent storyline, and I'm really enjoying it. I say it's quite dark, it's quite twisted, but it's excellent. I'm really enjoying it. And as I say, Martin Freeman's character, he has an American accent, which it took us a while. We hadn't realised it was him, and we were like, he really looks like Martin Freeman. And it wasn't until I had a quick look to see who the cast were that I realised it actually was him. He plays it so well that it really does look like an American actor who looks like Martin Freeman, or in fact it's Martin Freeman with an American accent. And as I say, he is playing such a dark and twisted character, and he really plays it well. So yeah, definitely worth a watch. It's on Netflix, called Startup. I'm not sure how many seasons there are, but we're really enjoying it. So that's pretty much it for this month's Ponderings in the Polytunnel. As I say, it's a bit of a roller coaster at the moment, but I'm holding on to the positives and trying not to hang on too much onto the bad days. We all have bad days, we all have good days. I think nobody sails through life with absolute perfection, morning, noon, and night, and we will all go through periods in our life where things are thrown at us, and it kind of throws you off a little bit, or life does not go as we expected. But it's a case of sticking at it, focusing on the good, finding what works for each of us as an individual. And for me, it's trying not to lose perspective, breaking each day down into little chunks, focusing on those positives, even the process of something as simple as making a cup of tea. It can be a bang the kettle on, stick a tea bag in the cup and have it made in seconds or minutes. Or I have a beautiful little glass teapot, I use loose tea, and I really enjoy the process of pouring that water on, watching the colour develop, and enjoying the process of making and drinking a cup of tea in a mindful way. And if I focus on each little thing that I do each day and do that in a mindful manner, so everything you do, from cleaning your teeth, taking a shower, going for a walk, making a cup of tea, gardening, being with the animals, you get so much more from it. We all have things that happen, and I'm not saying for a minute that it's all in the mind, but the mind is an incredibly powerful tool, and we can use it to override things. Even when I'm in extreme pain, I use techniques. The pain's still there, the thing is still real, but I use these mindful techniques and these processes of taking my head away from the pain, and it just helps. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit deep now, and I've rattled on for long enough. It's just started raining. Talking of tea, I think it's time to have a cup of tea. So I hope you're all well. I'm sure you're all having a peculiar time if you're living here in the UK with your growing. It's a peculiar season. But instead of getting ourselves upset about it or feeling low about it, it's quite interesting. I find it quite fascinating, the way things change. I don't know if you can still hear me because of the rain. So as I say, I find it a fascinating process that growing seasons are different from year to year. So thank you so much for watching. As I say, I hope you're all well. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.